All right, Battletech enthusiasts, continuing our review here of light mechs, and in this podcast, in this vlog, exploring some tactical ideas on how to use the Spider. Now, as a light mech, it has a number of criteria that, in my opinion, really puts it in the area tactically where there's a lot of considerations and a lot of different ways we can use this machine. It has speed. Now, certainly, that, for the most part, that's the defining attribute of a light mech. Certainly it doesn't have the armor, but the idea is you're utilizing the speed to stack the movement modifiers, hexes, and then on top of that, keeping range, or at least controlling range, means for the most part, if you're doing everything right, your opponent is hitting you on what? 10s, 11s, 12s, or 11s and 12s. And due to your speed, you're at least staying out of the main firing arcs of their weapons or their lance, kind of working together as a team. So this speed and range is protecting you. Spider has that. Weaponry. We have 2 medium lasers. Now, this is really interesting because we have the redundancy in Battletech. There's this idea where in order to score damage, you need to first hit. And in hitting, there are 2 things working against you. There's your mech's movement and your mech's range. Movement I can somewhat control depending on whether I walk or whether I run, so that's going to stack. And range I can somewhat control depending on the speed of my mech versus the speed of my opponent's mech. But then I also have to take into account their movement. I can't control how fast my opponent's going to move. I can limit it if I'm engaging a heavy or an assault mech versus the speed of a medium or a light mech or a tank. But there's these 2 factors in play that are eventually going to calculate what do I need to hit. And of course, my gunnery skill, the skill of my mech pilot on there. But let's say we're just stock pilot hitting on 4 base or higher plus modifiers. If I have 2 or 3 of the same weapon and I have the heat to be able to fire it reliably over the course of a number of turns, that's in my favor. That's one of the reasons why even some of these heavier and assault mechs that are packing PPCs and they don't quite have the heat to deal with it, maybe something like Marauder or a Warhammer, or in this case of 3, if we're looking at an Awesome, that's what makes them a little bit more deadly, or I should say, if you're facing them, very, very fearful. Same thing with the Stalker, right? One of the things with the Stalker is multiple range bands, long, medium, and short. It has dual weapons to do that. The LRMs, the lasers, the SRMs, all that type of stuff. So the Spider kind of mounts this in a smaller value, but you have less armor, you have speed, you have less tons. It's actually kind of an interesting predatory type mech, hunter type mech on there. Compare that to something like, say, the Locust, where, yes, it has a medium laser, but you have the shorter machine guns on there. I like the Locust variant with the 2 SRM packs. That's what I exclusively play. But you still have those choices. Or maybe you go all in with something like the Panther and you've got the PPC. Okay, you've got the short-range missiles on there too, but you're sacrificing speed. So that kind of elevates the Spider. Spider is kind of a stalker, right? Pushes it up a little bit. It has hands. The location of, in my opinion, the tactical edge that it has, the location of those medium lasers in its central torso means, well, one, it is a zombie mech, which means you can blow off arms and you can blow away left and right torsos and it can still function. This is very, very potent in a heavy or an assault mech, a zombie type mech, because you really have to put it down. Not so much tactical value in a light mech, because just, you've got like 4 armor bubbles in one spot, 5 armor bubbles in one spot. But nevertheless, it does kind of protect you, where if you're going in for a certain mission-specific thing where you're going to utilize those medium lasers, right? Maybe you're going to run to the backfield to try and engage some long-range missile carriers, or maybe a static artillery unit, and on the way in, you realize, okay, look, I'm going to have to take 1 or 2 shots from my opponent because I'm running by that fire base. Even if your arm gets blown off, or you take torso damage, you're going to have those 2 medium lasers in the center torso. And by the time the center torso goes, you're going to be cored out anyway, so it really doesn't matter. That puts it in an interesting spot. Elevating it a little bit more. And in the tech manuals, the early tech manual, the scale on the mechs is really weird because it shows the Spider and there's a person. He doesn't look like a mech warrior. maybe he's a technician or something. He's kind of running. The spider's taking some fire and he's kind of running away. And if you look, like, it just seems like the mech should be a lot bigger on there. The scale is kind of weird versus the miniature scale. The Iron Wind Current miniature scale, I think, is a fair assessment of it, although maybe it should be a little smaller. But then again, compared to the Stalker, that miniature is a little too small on there. Aesthetics aside for a second, looking back to it, the fact that it has the lasers in the center torso and it has the hands, which means now if you want to tactically use it, and certainly medium mechs are more suitable for this, but hey, these are tactical options that are in your toolkit that the calculation is always running because you could possibly use it like this. You can use it to hold back, let your heavies get up there, let your mediums get up there, get to that danger close, start brawling it out, and then run around behind, and now you're shooting with the medium lasers, and you're punching away. This is the same reason why, on another tactical level, the Javelin, in my opinion, is really a sleeper mech. It is really an undiscovered mech in that it has the SRM 6-packs. We can kind of contrast this and see Spider on a lesser scale. It has the SRM 6-packs in there in the torso, and that means it frees up your hands to punch. So that's really a close-in brawler mech. You want to get up there, 1 in 6 chance of hitting someone in the head, if I can get rear armor, and I can fire the SRM 6s at point-blank range. That's, if I can get rear armor, that's a game changer. Spider is like that on a much, much smaller scale, but for the battle value, it's interesting. Now, the room for error is, of course, very high. I mean, you can't miscalculate on a light mech if you're going to use it aggressively, but you have that in your toolkit. The other way that I see the Spider excels is not only as a recon mech, like the Locust, but as a cash and go, cash and grab type mech, where if you're in a mission and you have to run in behind your opponent's lines into their deployment zone and grab something or manipulate something or do something, well, you've got the 2 medium lasers to engage rear field units or static units. You've got the hands to pick stuff up, to kind of manipulate stuff, and it has the speed and maneuverability to do that. It's a very interesting light mech. It opens up a lot of possibilities. Now, the flip side of this is a question to you guys to kind of close out the Tactical VCast here. Maybe it's myself. Maybe it's my own local meta. Admittedly, I have 2 Spiders in my mech collection, so I have the model. I play it every now and then, but it's not in my regular stable, simply because there's other mechs that I really, really enjoy. Going through this podcast, going through this vlog, there's really no reason not to play a Spider, but I can't play like 15 light mechs. I mean, it's crazy. I love so many mechs. It's just, I need to play them all. Maybe I just got to start exclusively playing Alpha Striker or something like that. But that said, the other people that I play Battletech with, we don't see Spiders that much. And certainly they have the miniatures, or they would acquire the miniatures in their collection. So I wonder partially why that is. But a good light mech. And ultimately my test, here's my kind of ultimate narrative test in Battletech. Yes, I would like to inherit an assault mech, always, right? Just always the assault mech. But if you were coming of age and you're going to inherit your family mech in generations, you don't want to be the one to screw this up and toss your family into the rank of the dispossessed. I mean, think about that. Everyone is counting on you, not just you, but essentially as a mech warrior in employment and the perks that come with that, you are essentially supporting your entire family, right? Your brother, who's just a drifter and up to no good, you've got him on the payroll. You've got your pops, you've got your mom on the payroll. Everyone's on there. So you don't want to screw this up. If you were going to inherit a mech, and it's like, your oldest now, here is your mech, and that you walk into the hangar, and it's hangar bay 2, and there's a Spider there, you could do a lot worse than that. You really, really could, in my opinion. And that's the ultimate test. That moment where you inherit the mech, would you be disappointed about the Spider? I would say no.